Hello, hello. Welcome back to episode 2 of My CounterBalance. I cannot even tell you how excited we were by how the first episode was received. You guys are just so kind. So many of you have listened, which has just been amazing. And Hannah and I were quite surprised. We are apparently really popular in Sweden. I mean, who knew?
That's so funny to me.
All of our Swedish friends.
We love
Hello.
you.
Hi, we love you. Y'all are the
You're the
best.
best candy in the
Um,
world.
yeah, I mean, if anybody would like to host Hannah and I for a trip to Sweden, we would love to come anytime, anytime. And Hannah, it's been a week, wouldn't you say, since the last episode?
Since the last
It is
episode, since the documentary has come out,
since the documentary has come out. It has been
the
quite a
biggest
wild
loser
ride. The Biggest Loser documentary on Netflix, fit for TV if you're just tuning in. Because this episode, what are we doing, Hannah?
spilling the tea.
I brought my tea. I actually brought coffee because I don't drink tea. For all you tea drinkers out there, I'm sorry, I drink coffee. So, but yeah, we're going to spill some tea today because it's been really interesting to kind of watch how the whole documentary and how people have reacted to it has unfolded. Some of it, if I'm going to be honest, some of it I was not shocked at all. Like
Oh,
I
of
can't
course.
speak for you. A lot of it I wasn't surprised, but some of it I was a little bit.
Yeah, it was. I was trying to be careful and not react right away because I really
Right.
wanted to kind of take a few days and take this all in. We knew there was going to be negativity, we know, like a lot of people love to jump on that bandwagon. But the things that they picked, I just thought were strange.
Yeah, like I have to say the things that I thought people were going to be like outraged by and be like, "Oh my gosh," like people didn't seem to be very, but there were like two things in particular that I thought that people were so outraged at that was kind of shocking. The first one being the temptation challenges. Like, didn't you
Were
find that?
actually really fun. All the challenges were difficult, and everyone's like they were so fat shamed. Did you ever feel that way during any of the challenges?
No, and I don't think people were saying that about the challenge, but specifically the temptation challenges. Now, to be
Okay.
fair, the temptation challenges in the earlier seasons where they were having to pass stuff like donuts in their mouth to other people and stuff like that,
Oh,
that
we
was
never did
a
that.
little, we never had to do anything like that. And
Right.
those temptation challenges really did evolve over time. But like, I mean, people so latched onto those temptation challenges and really and truly like the temptation challenges, they were not even tempting at all. It was only tempting because they always had an aspect of gameplay involved in them. You know what I mean? Like what you would get if you participated or whatever. But I was never like, half of that food had been sitting out for like hours and hours and
Hours.
hours. And it all looked
Person,
so
and it always
gross.
looked. I mean, it was like a set, so it always looked. The other thing is, Olivia and I from the very beginning made a decision. Once Olivia kind of had to explain the temptations to me, we made a decision that we would never eat or never fall for any of the challenge, and we made that decision in the beginning, and we carried that out through the whole season.
Yeah, because like, I don't know. Like, first of all, my whole thing was I came all this way to work hard to change my life. I wasn't gonna throw away any of my potential hard work, even for gameplay on a stupid temptation challenge with food that didn't even look good, if I'm being honest. Like it didn't even, none of it ever looked good. But people were so bent out of shape about that. They were like, I mean,
So
I'm
many.
sorry, but you're never going to be put in a room with 1,000 cupcakes. And I was like, okay, fine. But you might have to drive home from work and pass 10 fast food restaurants on the way home. And for a lot of obese people, that's very tempting. And I think it was Aubrey Gordon that her biggest kind of issue was, which I could kind of see this. It was the insinuation that obese people don't have they can't be trusted or control themselves around food. And actually, if we're gonna really go there, you could probably, I think, overweight people in a lot of ways, for good and for bad, probably have more control over food and more awareness about food than any genetically thin person.
Totally agree. And I've
I mean,
thought
think
about,
about,
I mean,
think about how often you think about food. Or, I mean, even though I don't reside in an obese body right now, and neither do you, I am still have an obese brain. Like I am internally in a lot of ways. I will always, I mean, I have genetic obesity. It's a disease. It's not like, just something that you lose weight and don't have anymore. Like it's something we have to always. So I could see that, but people were so bent out of shape about
and
that.
the challenges were out of as many hours as we filmed. They were once every 10 days, sometimes
Yeah.
once a week, but once
Yeah.
it was just such a small part. I know that you guys saw because they spent time on those on the in the airing of the show, but they were such a small part of what we did every day.
Yeah. And we didn't even do that many of those temptation challenges. There weren't even that many of them, really, if I remember correctly. So that was kind of interesting to me.
But
That
when I
was
think
just
about when people watch, they loved those. So it's like, I think one of the things that we're trying to get across, and we're going to answer all your questions. We have a list of all of the questions that people have been asking. So stick around for those.
yes.
But the other thing is, it's interesting because as I'm reading all these comments, of course, and people are starting new discussions, while the show was being aired, people loved the challenges. So my
Yeah.
opinion, okay, so we're blaming the show because they did the challenges, yet everyone watched. Part of that was because they loved seeing the challenges, thought they were really cool. People ask us about the challenges all the time. Like
All
how
the time.
cool that you got to jump off a bridge in New Zealand. How cool that you got to be on a human Easter egg hunt. You got to do all these things. And I get it, there were temptation challenges, but for us, there were 2 food challenges, maybe out of all of them, I think.
There was a handful, but it wasn't like, I don't know. They were just non-events. That was the thing that is just so.
But then again, if you weren't there and you didn't watch every season religiously, you wouldn't know this. So I think part of the frustration of a lot of us contestants are a lot of people are sounding off on all of these things, which they obviously have a right to.
Sure.
But they never really were immersed in the show, watched. Maybe they don't know a contestant, or they never asked the question.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so I think it's hard for a lot of contestants looking on this now and getting so much backlash. Not really that it's us, but saying all these things that just really aren't the truth, or maybe they have a partial truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
and I think also, and I'll say what the second thing is, and then we can move on, because I think that's a really good, that we got tons of questions about that. But the second thing is the whole deal with the caffeine pills and all the caffeine drama.
Why is this such an issue?
It is super weird. And what else is really,
get it, but I kind of don't get it. I get why Jillian's upset for sure, which we'll talk about.
Sure. But what I don't understand about the whole caffeine drama is Dr. Huizenga being like, there was absolutely no caffeine. It was banned. It was not a part. It was against the rules. We had a coffee pot on the counter. As a matter of fact, I went back and watched some of one of the episodes.
But did Dr. Huizenga say that in the documentary? I'm just trying to remember.
Yes. He said that there was no caffeine on the ranch. It was not allowed, blah, blah, blah. But if you go back and look at some of the episodes, I went and looked at a few episodes from our season of clips of us in the kitchen, because I was just I wanted to see if they had removed the coffee pot for filming or something. It's right there. Jen Jacobs and I made the coffee every morning. Either she made it or I made it, depending on who got up early. I mean, I drank coffee every single. They took us to Starbucks,
right?
It was not on the off days. It wasn't caffeine.
Absolutely. The other thing that's worth mentioning is the caffeine drama started on seasons before ours,
right?
But also the reason why the caffeine pills were even a thing in the first place, because there were contestants that did not drink coffee that complained because they felt like other contestants had an edge.
That's correct. And
no one has been talking about this.
No.
And Jillian, as you know, Jillian is a stickler for things being fair. Now, some people might disagree with that, but she is like, okay, so if one person is getting this, then the next person, as is Allison Sweeney, as is Bob. So Jillian was like, okay, well,
And let's also remember that, and this is not really talked about a lot, but for whatever reason, I don't even know kind of the Biggest Loser lore behind it or why this was the case, but and it didn't happen in our season, but it was in other seasons before us where there was the drama, is because there were a lot of people of the Mormon faith in Biggest Loser. That was a huge population of contestants were Mormon, and they can't have caffeine. They can't for religious reasons. So in order to make it fair, they had to at least, and there is all kinds of data out there that caffeine, gives you a little boost, like in the gym, it boosts your metabolism. Thing like whether any of that is true, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, but I mean, it's what's wild. And I saw some chick going on and on and on TikTok about the caffeine. It was like, I mean, they were pushing like caffeine pills and stuff, and she was drinking an Alani. And I just wanted to be like, there's more caffeine in your Alani, Celsius, Monster, Red Bull. Like there are people that drink multiple ones of those every day that are in the fitness industry that are considered healthy and fit. And nobody bats an eye. And then you talk about Biggest Losers drinking coffee or taking like a caffeine supplement or something like that. And Jillian at the time had a supplement that had natural caffeine, and it had like green tea extract or something like that in it. It wasn't even like a, whatever. And in the emails that she put out, they were saying, well, do you want us to buy like stack or two or something? And she was like, no, if we're going to give them anything, we should give them something natural. And she had a supplement at the time or whatever, which was fine.
That's also no one's talking about is
right.
Jillian said to us, if you're having your 1 cup of coffee in the morning, you're fine.
Yeah.
She never, let's get this out in the open. Jillian never forced anyone to take anything.
No.
Nor was she pushing this caffeine agenda, nor was she saying you need to have the caffeine pills and you need to, I never even actually saw them.
I didn't either. And that was the other thing is like people talk about them all the time, like, oh, they were just out everywhere. I never saw, I'm not saying they weren't there, but I was never offered any. And I was never, I just drank my black coffee with my almond milk and my stevia. Like I don't know.
Things in the cabinet that we never used. Like there was that sweetener that was little tablets. Like there were things, there was like a protein powder. So it could have been just up there, but it was not, it was such a non-issue on our season. And Jillian was like, you're fine with your 1 cup of coffee. Like you're absolutely fine.
Yeah, it was no big deal. And so I think a lot of the reason for those caffeine pills, where that all started was them trying to just make an even playing field because there were people, because here's the other thing. And this goes into another, someone who is a past contestant who will remain nameless, but I'm sure you can guess, who's been very vocal on the interwebs and on social media about, and this is somebody who's been disgruntled for a really, really long time and has been very open and whatever. They were insinuating, they were like, so if the scale is a main character in a show, and you are trying to sell a certain story or a certain narrative or trying to, the higher ups want a certain person to win. Don't you think there's going to be some type of manipulation in the scale and in your main character to make sure? So, and they didn't come out and say, oh, they were fudging numbers and stuff like that. Because
insinuation. That was a very big
there was a big insinuation there. And so my thing that most people don't know, and this was another thing that I heard a ton on social media where people were just like, oh my gosh, like they were doing this. And because there was prize money involved, the Federal Gaming Commission was involved in anything, every challenge. We had to have someone there from the Federal Gaming Commission. Every weigh-in that we did earlier in the day, because we weighed in, the weigh-in that you saw on the TV show, that was not the real weigh-in. That scale was not real. Most people still don't know that. It didn't beep. There was none of that like music or any of that. We had like a little screen on the ground, like a
PowerPoint presentation, basically.
Literally, and it just did the numbers.
We did weigh in. Don't forget this part. We did weigh in at a doctor's office the morning, but the contestants never knew their actual weight until you guys saw it. We never knew until we were on the actual scale.
But there was Sandy, the medical trainer, was present. A nurse. We had a nurse because they took every 2 weigh-ins. They took our blood. They took a vial of blood to run our blood. We had to do a urinalysis every single week to make sure we didn't have drugs in our system. That's the other thing. People think, oh, people were taking stuff. They would have known. We had to pee, and towards the end, when it started getting really intense with less and less people, we had to pee with the door open with a PA watching us. Like we had to pee in a cup in front of somebody. They had to watch us pee and hand the pee over. Like it wasn't even like Kat, who was one of the PAs.
Every week. We did that every week.
We did the bod pod where they did all of our analysis of our muscle, water, all the things. We did the bod pod every day. I mean, we did the bod pod all the
We
time.
also did our RMR when they were testing our
Yes.
resting metabolic rate. We did that,
Yep.
I think, once every 2 weeks
Yep.
or something.
Yep.
Where you breathe in and they can tell how your metabolic function is.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
was
So,
improving, might I say. It was improving. Like, we were
right.
improving in so many ways.
So you're doing all of this stuff. And so when we weighed in, they also were filming. They filmed the weigh-ins. Like, so, I mean,
They
I
have
laugh all the
to.
time.
Legally, they have to, so they can go
Right.
back and reference the number.
If there was any, claims about cheating or fudging numbers or whatever, there was a person with a camera there that was filming the whole thing, an executive producer and the story producer for that week and 2 PAs. So you were in a room with about 10 people that were all watching what was going on. There was no way any kind of numbers could have been fudged or moved around. And, people just assume that we just like did all these things and then just like willy-nilly hopped on some scale in a TV set. Like, there were huge checks and balances that went into the weigh-ins and all of that kind of stuff. Like, it was not, everything was very much on the up and up.
They would want to, the other thing is a lot of people that were so loved had to go home. Don't you think the producers would have loved for them to stay for more views or whatever, but they couldn't.
Yeah.
Those were the numbers that they could not change.
Yeah.
Or else
that's
the show
right.
would have been sued. They would have been, and back then reality TV was very, very different. There wasn't AI editing. There wasn't, and so it was a very different time. And the legal part of it was very serious.
Very serious. Like, there is and this is a little bit of tea. There's a little bit of tea for you. There was one incident that happened on the show that we cannot and have not ever, and nobody really has talked about. And we cannot talk about it because we had to sign an NDA. We had to sign an NDA about this particular, because there was a very large legal component that had to do with a particular thing that happened that broke a really big time rule. And there was all kinds of ramifications that came from that. And that's all we can say about that. That's the biggest piece of tea that
that rule had nothing to do with the producers, the trainers.
No.
None of those people broke a rule, let's just say. So there's nothing on any of those people. No,
it was a contestant that broke a big time rule. And that person, and I'm going to be honest with you, that person was also warned multiple times before legal action had to happen. And that's just the way it is. But we had to sign an NDA that we wouldn't then or ever discuss like the ins and outs of what happened.
And it would have made better TV for this person to stay, but they did lie to all of us and kept to their word.
Yep. So the fact that there's insinuation that, yes, could the producers, like, this is another kind of little bit of tea story. And here's the other thing. People are always like, oh, well, they made me look like this or made me look like that. There was a situation, an incident, or not an incident, but there was a moment where I was taken outside by the pool with me, Arthur, and Irene. It was the three of us. They took us outside. And it was the story producer for the week, all the set of camera guys, and they took us outside. And they were just kind of like they were kind of interviewing us, but trying to get the three of us to talk to one another. And they were just going to like capture like this conversation. And they were, we would talk for a little while and they'd be like, okay, stop. They'd be like, okay, but what we want y'all to talk about, what about this? They kept trying to get us to talk about these other two contestants, but it was so unnatural. And it was so like a conversation we never would have really had. And like halfway through, like I remember I was sitting there and I was like, I know what you want me to say. And I'm not saying that because A, it's nasty. B, it is inauthentic to me. I'm not going to talk about these two people, these other two contestants whom I loved and adored and was like, this makes no sense. But they were just trying.
And Irene will just sit there in silence. She will just be like, you're not making
and all three of us were
This is Irene.
Yeah, exactly.
We love you.
Arthur was finally like, we're not, this is, and then they were fine. Like the producer was fine. Like, okay, all right, never mind. We'll scratch it. We tried, and we just moved on. But it was like, they can't make you say anything that you don't want to say. So if people say stuff, yes, can you edit people into certain ways and whatever? I think we saw a lot of that in the documentary, but more than not, the things that happened. They just happened. You know what I mean?
Contestants make certain decisions to send people home to gameplay, like
That's
calling
right.
a villain or not a villain or whatever. Like all these words are being used for tons of different past contestants. Like they made the decisions they made, and they can't go back and change that.
No,
So,
they can't.
like when I'm, it's interesting because I debated on whether I was going to say this or not, but I have been watching a previous season. I've never seen any of the seasons, so I've started watching things, right? Clips and different things. And so I started watching season 8 because it's very prominent in the documentary. That's Danny Cahill and Tracy. You could just season. To be continued, but I've seen most of the first episode. And I want to say one thing that's really important that the documentary, I feel like, really missed this opportunity. So when Tracy, at the halfway point of the mile, when she's like passing out and she's having, I never can say it, whatever. Rhabdo, which is basically...
Rhabdomyolysis. Rhabdo.
And Tracy did also suffer with a lymphedema, which a lot of contestants did. That's pre-show. A couple weeks later, or maybe it was a couple months, I don't know the exact time, there was a clip of her with her family. She not only ran the mile, but she ran it with the exact same mile. The ambulance was following her. It was like this big thing. Her family was at the finish line. She ran it with absolute ease. So I understand she collapsed at half a mile. She, it was hot outside. I understand that. There is nothing to be taken away from that. She had like this whole experience, which was awful. But what a victory. Not even, a year later. And it wasn't even 6 months. It was like a couple months, or it might have even been a couple. I don't know how many weeks she was on the ranch, because I think she, people wanting her, which is not a secret. She came back and ran the mile. I mean, literally, she said that was so easy. And for the documentary not to show that, just to make it look like, oh, this happened and it was so awful, I thought it was one of her best moments. It was such a cool thing that, she wasn't afraid. She didn't do this. She said that was easy. She just kind of shrugged it off and that was easy. They should have shown that.
Right.
Like,
and here's the thing,
I think focus on the negativity of what happened to her on day one.
And here's the thing that I want to say that has been just wild to me. And then we can get into some questions, because there were so many good questions asked. If you think about how 18 seasons of Biggest Loser, and there's, at least, 20 people, 20 contestants on each season. I mean, just do the math of how many contestants they chose to essentially feature.
There's over 300.
Okay, but they chose to feature 3 people. There were, Hannah and I, Ryan, Suzanne, like we were kind of like outliers in the actual thing, but really it was Danny, Tracy, and Joelle. Those were the 3 they chose. And what I find...
And we were absolutely fine with that, just FYI.
Sure. Pardon me. What I find so wild about that is, if you just look at, like, I had so many of you DM us and say, I would have loved to have heard from more people. That I would have loved to have heard more points of view of like what their experience, what was it like? Like, so they took this minutia slice of experience of all those seasons, all those years, and they took the 3 most dramatic of them and decided that was the truth. That world is the truth about Biggest Loser.
Sure.
So,
but to be honest, I didn't even think the 3 of them, there were so many dramatic things that happened on the show.
So I just thought to myself,
I get Joelle because she's been a squeaky wheel, right?
I just thought to myself, surely people are going to watch this and use like deductive reasoning and go, oh, this is not to take away from their experiences.
No, not at all.
That everybody has a right to their own experience. But it was as if all of a sudden people were like, oh, this is the gospel truth of Biggest Loser. This is how it was. And I just thought, and then anyone else who has any kind of differing opinion or experience, because really and truly, like Sione said it the best. He did an amazing video. If you don't follow him on Facebook and all the places, go find it. It's like a 10-minute video. It's verbatim what everything I feel and Hannah feels about the show.
He was on the season with Joelle, so he does talk about what happened there and how the other contestants were reacting.
And he was like,
happening in the house.
All the things that led up to that moment before Bob like went crazy for a moment. It was days and hours and days and days and days of frustration, of resistance, of somebody being like not receptive and not putting in the work. And this is according to Sione. I was not there. This is according to what he was saying.
And there were Carla said that on the episode.
Correct.
There were lots
Correct. So my thing is, and then a friend of mine, I shared this with Hannah today, and Hannah was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. So the way I view it is this. My friend was like, have you ever gotten upset with your child, whom you love and care for and want the best for? Have you ever snapped at your child and yelled at your child? And I was like, well, unfortunately, yes. I wish I could say I've never lost my temper or like whatever. And she was like, that's when I watched that. That's what I saw. I saw somebody who cares very much for somebody else, and they have been pushed to their limit of frustration. And it's just like, you're finally just like, enough, like, oh my gosh. And the cameras, and you're on a TV show, so the cameras catch it. I mean, they caught that and they were like, oh, this is incredible. This is gold. This is what people will want to come back and see. And so these moments of incredible frustration, crying, drama, and then the other side of the flip coin that they loved on Biggest Loser was all the victories, all the breakthroughs, all the things. And so, but what is so awful is the documentary took that one little moment of frustration and made it seem like,
well, actually Bob was on 18, so 18 seasons.
Yes, right. It made it seem like that was the treatment that we all received in the sense
that's how Bob was to all of us.
And I'm telling you, I never one time.
A lot of comments, and I do want to address this. We probably shouldn't, but there were a lot of comments saying this was a racist moment. And I'm going to tell you right now, Bob Harper is the farthest thing from racist that you can imagine.
Yeah. On my Instagram.
On our season, in the beginning of our season, Arthur, who is an incredible, amazing, funny Black man who was on our season, Bob thought he loved him so much. As a matter of fact, Olivia and I were talking today when Arthur got sent home, which was really sad. And we all were, Bob, after Arthur walked out the door, Bob sat on the floor and was sobbing. And kept sobbing. Saying, not Arthur. Jillian was crying. We were all so upset. I remember when Courtney left, Jillian was so upset, also crying. So when people say they didn't care about you, they didn't do this, so much happened behind the camera that people are not talking about because they don't know. And that is the farthest from the truth.
And somebody said today on my Instagram, I debated about saying this person's name because I don't know them. They follow me on Instagram. And I said an Instagram story and I was like, oh, I just got back from New York celebrating Bob's birthday. And it was the icon, Bob Harper. It was so great. And I, love him so much and whatever. And if anybody's followed me for any length of time, they know about my relationship with Bob and Hannah's too. And she was just like an icon. She was like more like a racist pig. No, thank you. And I was like,
talking about Bob? That's crazy.
I was like, wait, what? Like, what? Are you insane? Like, I said, wow. I said, what is it like feeling like you can say that about somebody you don't know, right? That you only saw something on some show on TV that had its own agenda to paint a picture that was more interesting and dramatic, which you bought into hook, line, and sinker. And now you're going to call somebody something like that? Like, what does that say about you?
Right.
What does that say about the kind of person that you are?
Honest, I'm sure Joelle has gotten all kind of away from Biggest Loser. We know that every non-white person has dealt with a racism in our country, and it's terrible.
Oh, 100%.
It is
100%.
You know, we will never understand what that feels like.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
But that man, who we both know very well, that is not something that he subscribes to at all.
Never. Never.
I don't have to expound on that because, you know, but that was hard to read for sure. And I get it. The documentary, in my opinion, you know, they didn't show the kind, incredible things that Bob and Jillian, both of them, separately and together, did with all of us contestants. And that's why a lot of the contestants are coming out and they're angry. Bob helped me get over my depression.
I have an idea.
All kinds of things. But we need to get to questions because we're...
Yes, but let's just do one more thing. I have an idea. You're going to share a story of something post Biggest Loser that Jillian has done for you, that like some kind of like kindness. I'll share one about Bob. Like that people would know. This would be good tea. This is the good kind of tea. So mine is really short. So this is one of the good kinds of tea. These are the kind of people that Bob and Jillian are. When I left Biggest Loser and I got pregnant in, let's see, Harper was born in 2014. Is that right?
2015.
2015. Thank you. I don't even know how old my son is. Yes, 2015. So it would have been, I guess, 2013, 2014. I got pregnant. The first time I'd ever gotten pregnant in my whole life. I was so excited. Told, you know, all my close friends, including Bob and my family. And at about the 9-week mark, I had a miscarriage. And it was, I've talked about it very openly. It was devastating on so many levels. And we are going to do a whole episode on a later time on grief and loss and with pregnancy and all of that. So, and I was so upset and devastated. And I remember after I told my family and everything, I remember I called Bob. And I told him, and this was right after I'd had my DNC, and he was sobbing, just like Hannah was talking about, like with Arthur. He was so upset, and he said, and this was like on a Wednesday, Thursday, he said, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I was like, "I'm nothing. I'm probably just going to sit in my apartment." And he was like, "I'm coming." He got in a plane, flew from Los Angeles to New York, got a hotel, stayed there for the weekend, took me out to dinner, took me shopping, came and I sat at his hotel, spent the entire weekend with me, just making sure that I was okay, that I was seen and I was loved. He did not have to do that. Bob at that point in time was so busy doing all the things, all the shows, still on Biggest Loser, but he made time for me because he knew how devastating and important that was to me. And that's not somebody who doesn't care about people. People don't do that for other people. Like, you know what I mean? So that's who Bob Harper is. That's who the real Bob Harper is.
He's a wonderful person, and he's a wonderful human being, and has always been supportive of us, and, you know, lives his life in a kind and great way. And I get it. He said a lot of things in the documentary that people are reacting to, and I think that's the hard part because we actually know him.
Right.
And he's funny and smart, and there's just so
sassy,
of course. I mean, gosh, when we first saw them, I didn't even know he was gay because I didn't know who he was or really who Jillian was. When we all had crushes on him. I was like, this
100%.
He is everything. I just remember he just was. He was a true safe place, and that's why not all, I would say 90% of the contestants are very, very. What's the word I'm looking for? We're protective of the two of them because of what they helped us overcome, and that's a huge thing to remember. And they've done many things for many contestants over the years. And we're very proud of that. And I understand there's lots of complications between their relationships. There's lots of questions about that, which I can't to really speak on. But at the same time, you know, when it came to Biggest Loser, they put 110% into their job and into all of us. Mm-hmm. And that's an important thing to remember.
Yeah.
For sure. Shall we get some questions? We have so many. Or do I
need? Do you want to say?
There's so many. I don't even know what to pick. So
how about the fact that
after the show we can do that? Not only did she send me gifts for my wedding and helped me with a couple of
Mm-hmm.
details and all kinds of things and helped me anytime I ever messaged her, called her, or whatever. She always has picked up and has always gotten
Even just
well.
recently, you just talked to her.
I talked to her right before the documentary came out because I was very nervous and I was very kind of freaking out for a lot of reasons. And once again, she kindly talked me off the ledge and said, all you have to do is tell the truth. She said, and you do not feel like you have to tell anything else but that. And
Mm-hmm.
she also, like she always says to me, your truth matters just as much
Yep.
as anyone else's. Okay.
Yep.
The thing is, after I had Milo, I was very sick for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the hospital, which she sent a humongous basket full of tissue after I had Milo, and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks because I was very sick. And she reached out to me every week and was like, "What's the plan? What is your doctor saying?" And really just was a huge, and Bob too, but she was a huge support for me during that time when I was very, very, very ill. And she knew that I was having preeclampsia. She also had a post-pregnancy program that she kind of put together and helped me kind of look through that, like what I should be doing, and really helped me gently move my body and help me get back to a better place mentally. And just like a couple months ago, I said, "Can we talk?" And she picked up and she was getting ready to
Yep.
go on the news and still took
Mm-hmm.
2 hours out of her day.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the thing about Jillian is she's been dragged through the mud for several things. But she will stand up for herself as she should. And she taught us to do the same thing. So we will always call them friends and family. And that's
Yeah.
the kind of people that they are. Okay.
Definitely.
We're ready to get to some questions now.
Let's get to some questions. Okay. Let's see.
There's so many.
Okay. There was let's see. Oh, this is such a good one. I mean, here's a more practical one.
Okay.
Somebody asked, were all contestants asked to participate? I would have loved to have heard more stories and experiences. So that's a really good question. There were a lot of people who were asked to participate, and there were a lot of other people who did participate but did not. They got completely cut out. Their interviews got cut out. And you should know, Hannah and I talked about this in the last episode. Our interview was like 8.5 hours. We sat there for 8.5 hours and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. But Bob and Susie, they were another one from the very beginning.
Matt and Susie.
What? Oh, Matt and Susie, not Bob and Susie. Sorry, I had that on brain.
Susie's story is incredible. They're married. There was
Oh my
like an
gosh.
iconic episode that I have to watch that I haven't watched of her cutting
his hair.
whole thing.
Yep.
And they're precious people with a wonderful and beautiful family, and they, and Susie was very graceful about it, as she always is.
Sure.
We did film for the documentary, and we were not used. And she said, and I'm absolutely fine with that. Which I'm sure now she's like, "Thank you, Jesus."
Yeah, right. But there were
a lot of contestants that were asked, and a lot of contestants didn't really know what it was at first, which totally understand. A lot of contestants declined, and we declined 3 times, including our lawyer declining for us. Right.
Right.
And
Right.
they just really stayed on us, and we're saying that we want to show the positive side of this, and you represent that piece of this, and so that was the reason we finally said yes.
Let's see. This was a really interesting one. And Hannah and this is a question about BMI, which is, I think, really interesting because there was also a lot of discussion and a lot of drama about Rachel. They really used that and there was quite a bit. And I think there's a lot to unpack here, as far as we can shed a little bit of light on how that all transpired and what, as a member of the Final Four, because Hannah and I were obviously members of the Final Four in our season, what happens during that Final Four. Because I don't think, because see, for people who are watching, it's just like 1 week between you go home for the Final Four and then the finale. So someone said, your BMI at the finale, she was talking to me in this, was 18.8, and Hannah's was around the same, while Rachel's was 18. Has anyone pointed that out? So I went back and I was like, that's really interesting to me. I'm going to go I'm gonna go check that out. I went back and did the calculations. My BMI actually was 18.9. I think Hannah's may have been 18.8. Ours was like right around the same because Hannah and I were almost at the same weight, and we're only an inch taller than Hannah. But I mean, we're very similar at that point. Rachel was actually 17.5. So
Significantly lower on the BMI scale, significantly.
What? Yes, exactly. Like each little point, each little decimal on the BMI scale represents quite a lot. Also, Rachel was 5'5", and so nobody is going to argue. Nobody. I think Hannah, you even said this. She took it too far. I mean, she took it too far.
She lost over like 59%. We weren't even close to that of her body.
No, we were in the 48% or something like that. We weren't quite
105 pounds. I mean, that is,
So no one's going to argue that that was too much. That was too much, and she went too far. And there was also, is it hypothyroidism? That is where you have an overactive thyroid? Is it hypothyroid? Whichever one is, she found out right after, after I remember this, hearing about this, she found out that she actually had an overactive thyroid. So that also played into all of that as her body started really cranking up, But so technically anything below 18 is considered underweight. So she was underweight. Anna and I were both at the lower end from 18 to 22, I believe is considered a healthy weight in BMI land. So Hannah and I were
let me just ask you this. She found out after she left the show that she had overactive thyroid. So that would be her.
Yes.
So she was experiencing hyperthyroidism. So she found out. Okay.
Correct. So, which is like that came out after the show. So she was also, so she was also having some medical things, that were going on. But here's the thing because people were just like, oh, I can't believe the producers knew that this was going on, and then they let her go on. It was actually shocking to everybody. That whole thing with Bob and Jillian when she comes out and they're both just like,
completely real.
That was as
They hadn't
real.
seen her in like 8 weeks. They hadn't seen her. She looked totally fine. The last episode where she went home. The trainers don't go home with you before the finale. We were at home for 7.5 weeks before our finale. Now you had to do weekly check-ins.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Yep.
And she was Dolvet. She was Dolvet's, I almost said patient. She was Dolvet's player. So he was in touch with her that whole time she was at home. Now, whether he knew, he
says he did not. And here's the thing. You have to call in once a week. There's a group call. So for Hannah and I, it was me, Hannah, Jay, and Irene. We had to call in, and it was a group call. And then we had to each call in individually, and we had to talk to Dr. Hazanga. Sandy was on the call. Dr. Hogan was on the call, who is the psychologist. There was a psychologist on there. People keep saying there was no psychologist or nutritionist. Dr. Cheryl was the nutritionist who was on the show. Yeah.
Dr. Cheryl Forberg.
Doctor.
Might we add, right?
Doctor. So you had to call, and they said, when you were on your call by yourself, they're like, hi, because they didn't want the other contestants to know. They're like, how's your weight? What's your weigh-in? You had to email in and say what your weight was. You had to say what you were doing. They asked you all about are you sleeping? How do you feel? And then Dr. Hogan was always like, how's your brain? Like, are you feeling okay? Are you feeling stressed? There was like a whole little thing. Was it like a 2-hour long conversation? No, it was about a 20-minute call check-in, but what I have been told, again, I wasn't on the phone call, but what I was told was that she wasn't being fully transparent. I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying that she wasn't.
Come out and talk about it. I understand.
Sure.
Stay out of the spotlight. I totally understand that. And I also want to say, Olivia and I met Rachel that night. She was perfectly kind and sweet.
Precious.
And was absolutely, thrilled to be there and had no ill will towards anyone.
Yeah.
But she was very thin in person. Remember, you're watching TV, so you're seeing her look much bigger on television than you do in person.
Oh my gosh.
A million times over.
Right.
She was very, very thin in person.
Yeah. like
Oh,
very, very thin. So I also, and I'm not
added
saying,
sleeves. Remember, they actually had to. Her dress originally was sleeveless, and they
and they
added
had to
like flutter sleeves because her arms were just.
like bones, like skin on bones. And there is a large conversation to be had around that. Why she felt, why there wasn't something in her that goes, okay, this is too much. That pressure to win. I also don't know what her motivation was, like financially. Like I don't know, did she need the money more? I mean, like people do all kinds of crazy stuff. And David Broom, that was the one thing he said he regretted. If he were to do it again, he would go back and take the prize money away. And everybody across the board, if there was no prize money, 90% of the people still would have done it. I
Oh,
would have done it,
absolutely.
even with
I
no
never
prize money.
thought in the beginning that we were ever even anywhere close to winning prize. Like I never. We just right.
No,
Yes.
no.
We
But
were.
I thought that was really, really interesting. Do you have a question that you want to?
There's just so many. Sorry, I had to put my do not disturb on because duh. Okay, so let's look at. We did touch on this last week, but there was several comments about. Let me find it. I should have had this on a piece of paper and I did not. It's so interesting the way the way Instagram sorts the comments. They're like they don't all show up on your feed now, which is interesting. Okay.
I have a good one here.
Okay, you go ahead and I'll find this.
Okay.
This other
This
one.
is one that has been asked over the years so many times. We've never felt the freedom to be able to talk about it, but now that it's kind of like out and about, like we can talk about it. Someone said, how many calories exactly did you eat? They were 800 to 900 calories is insane. I'd love for you to talk about your thoughts on that. And so this is a great question. This is a great question. We were all given little pieces of paper by Dr. Huizenga after we did hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of DEXA scan, DNA. We did this thing where we spit into a cup and then they sent our spit off, tested our DNA and told us based on our DNA in that little cup, what type of athlete our physicality had a propensity to be. So Hannah was a strength athlete. I was an endurance athlete, which really, if you know anything about like what we're both strong at athletically, that
Totally.
really, it was exactly like
It was
nailed
spot on.
it. Right.
It was
Right.
spot on.
My card that I was given was 1,040. I'm sorry, no, 1140 because I went and looked. You looked 1,140.
And mine was 1147 because I was
So
slightly smaller than Olivia.
that is still. So everybody is like going on about the 8 or 900. In the scheme of a day, that is not that much lower than around 1,000 calories. Like that's still not enough. Hannah and I, we have our own business where we coach people. We've been coaching people in weight loss for almost 15 years. You know, we've both been doing it forever and we have CounterBalance. I would never tell somebody to eat 800 calories. Never. I know better. I know now. I was that too low? Yes. But I also went back and looked at our journals and pretty much, and Hannah, you can dispute this if you think, but Hannah and I pretty much ate almost the same thing every day together because we cooked together. Like sometimes Hannah would cook us dinner. Sometimes if I got done with a workout earlier than Hannah or Hannah had an interview, I would go and make the dinner or whatever. We ate very similar things, Hannah and I did. And I went back and looked and there were days that we ate 1,300, 1,200. There were days I ate 850 and 9. But within that, there were a handful of things. One, I never counted any fruit or vegetable in those calories. Never.
And that was Jillian's rule. We don't count.
Right. She was like, eat greens,
abundant.
fruit.
Right.
There, you don't have to ever count those.
No,
Like, I mean,
not
she was
gonna
all
eat 5 bananas or 5 apples. Like, also use your brain. Like that was also
right.
she would always
Exactly. So within that was it still really low? Yes,
of course.
but
And no one has ever said that it wasn't
was it too low? However, I would like to shed a little bit of light because what it's being portrayed as is Bob and Jillian just picked this random 800 number out of the sky and said, y'all need to eat this much because it's super, super, super low. I don't know why it's giving me a thumbs up. Um, I want y'all to remember that, Bob and Jillian, yes, they weren't doctors. Yes, they were trainers. And so for me, getting that number from Dr. Huizenga and them giving that number, I fell somewhere in between. And that was my decision based on my adult choices that I made, right? And Hannah made the
that we
adult
had
choice.
800 calories, and we completely admit that, and that's out there. That's been out there for years. Like,
Yeah,
honestly,
that's not anything that we've been not transparent about. But 800 calories is a very highly studied number.
right,
It comes with a myriad of issues and problems, and it's typically only used in medically supervised environments.
controlled.
Okay. Right. So, a lot of times, like our dad went to the Cooper Clinic when we were growing up, because our dad has been obese our entire life. They had him around 800, 900 calories all the way back then. Bariatric surgery patients, right after they have their surgery, when they are at their biggest weight, do you know how many calories they're told to eat?
Why?
Between 800 and 1,000.
Right.
They move up from that, which is also what we did. The thinner we got, the more calories we ate, because we needed that. And again, I'm not defending this, because I think we all would have lost the same amount of weight, maybe even more, with the amount of exercise and movement we were doing, and what a shock it was to our body without going that low. But that was the gold standard back then. That was, we had a whole medical team looking after us, Dr. Huizenga. I also would like to push back a little bit on Dr. Huizenga, that if he really thought we were in some kind of danger, he would have quit, stopped, halted production, brought a lawsuit, but he didn't, because he saw that in our blood work and everything, that everybody was okay. Like nobody, you know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not there. I openly will admit that was too low of calories, like period, full stop, period. But I do want everybody to know that it was not like somebody was holding a gun to your head and be like, you can only eat that much. You could have eaten.
How much you ate every day was your exact, was your, I mean, Vinny Hickerson just came out. He was on a after ours, who we both know well. He's an incredible guy. He ate 2,400 calories.
Yeah. Yeah. And he still did amazing. Also we had high calorie day. Nobody talks about that. We had a high calorie day once a week.
Like over 2,000. Some people ate, I ate 2,500 every high, and that was once a week. That was on our way.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes,
if you go back and think about it, we were really calorie cycling was kind of,
yep.
And carb cycling. Like on high calorie day, we had Ezekiel bread grilled cheeses, we had cereal, we had all kinds of food that we never had during the week. You could pretty much have whatever you want. On some seasons, they ordered food. Like we never did that.
We never did that.
Right.
And I want you to say, when we say high calorie day, it wasn't like we were like binging,
no.
Because we were eating like Ezekiel bread grilled cheeses, and like we were eating stuff like we'd make turkey chili on those days, because we had, the main reason was it was a day off. It was our full rest day. We took one day a week where we did no working out. We just rested. And that was the day that was we slept. Sometimes, that was our nap day. Like, Hannah and I would just be like, oh, we've got like high calorie day, weigh-in day. We'd be able to like take a big nap. And I noticed that like when we did the weigh-in, we all had like our hair done, our makeup done, because it was like a refueling day on so many.
And it also,
definitely,
they set it up that way because they wanted to take the pressure off of the weigh-in day, because it was hard for a lot of people, including us.
Definitely.
But it was like a day for us to relax, for us to get ready for, we called it prom night. Every weigh-in was prom night, because then you could see all the contestants on their makeup and like, and we got to relax. We got to really spend time together. We got to make, slow breakfasts. Justin and I would always make like tri-tip or bison, steaks and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Which was incredible. To get ready for the weigh-in. So that was a huge one. Another thing, there's several questions on this, and we already talked about the lighting, and which was unfortunate, and the camera angles on really everybody, I guess. Although Joelle and Suzanne were lit beautifully, I thought. Someone said they definitely did you dirty with the angles and the lighting, and someone else said this is exactly what I said. It wasn't even subtle, and that bothered me. And someone else said, I noticed this as well. I also follow you and Olivia. She's pretty slim, and you both look amazing. You are too. I thought my eyes were deceiving me. To be fair, I was heavier when we did this, because I just
Hannah had just had a baby. I went back and looked because I write down was at the time, I'm at maintenance now, but I was still working on losing my postpartum weight. It took me, and we're going to talk about that. It took me 5 years to lose my weight from Felix. It took me a long time. I'm 24 pounds heavier today, or 24 pounds lighter sitting here today than I was then. But 24 pounds is not that much. It looks like I'm 100 pounds heavier on the document than I am now.
The lighting, it was so dark and harsh, and the angle, like all I could see was it. Like watching it, I literally, and I wish I would have filmed my reaction. I was like they didn't do us any favors.
But I also have to say they didn't do us any favors. However, I want to acknowledge Hannah has worked her butt off since she's had her baby. I'm telling you, we're going to do a whole thing about postpartum weight loss and body image. But I'm telling you, you have also lost, I mean, Hannah's lost over 50 pounds.
47, since 47 pounds. Yeah.
Okay. Well, 47.
Amazing. I'm at a healthy weight.
Amazing. So, and the fact that they, multiple times Hannah talked about having a baby. None of that was included in there. Like
that was my only request was I just want to say that I just had a baby. And that was one of the reasons that I didn't want to do it because I knew I was like, this is not what I normally look like. This is really difficult.
Right. Definitely.
In these tiny like doll chairs. I don't know.
Yeah, they did.
That's okay. I they don't owe us anything, right? They don't owe us anything. I get it. I totally get it. But that was brought up. I just wanted to say it because it was brought up multiple times in our comments section.
Yeah. It was.
And I agree. It was. They did not do us any favors. And as someone said, it was you too dirty. And
I mean, I was thinking about it, like, not that numbers matter.
To say this really quick, we both have full body photos on our Instagram. If you would like to go see us in an unedited photo, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Hannah. I mean, kids. I mean, we're like, what? It's. I mean, and to be fair, like I was thinking about the other day when we were watching it, like. Not to get into numbers, but Hannah and I are very similar in weight and height. And like at that time for me, I remember feeling like so great. Cause I was like, I'm at like 174. And for me, that was amazing. I weigh 150 now, but I think to myself, I looked like I weighed
incredible. Like what
it was, but my point is the way they lit it, and everybody knows you've taken pictures before and you've gone back and then you've just been like, whoa, like
but that was completely
but I felt like they were trying to prove a point. They were trying to paint us all as unhappy, unsuccessful people, and it was the Biggest Loser's fault. That was what essentially and so I just I think that was brought up a lot, and we wanted to address that. I mean, moving on, because we ain't victims for nobody, and we feel good and have been working really hard. We'll talk about all that in other episodes because a lot of people have asked about that. Let's see. There was another
this comment has come up several times. And I mean, I want to also, these are questions that people have allowed us to ask.
Yeah.
I'm curious about how excess workouts and low calorie destroys the metabolism, especially low calories. I can't lose weight anymore with just dieting. So I just want to say that our metabolisms were obviously checked beforehand, and there wasn't, I don't think on our season, everyone's metabolisms were in the trash when we did.
Tracy said that. She said that in the documentary.
Okay.
She did say that. She was like, pretty much you wouldn't have gotten there if your metabolism had not already been trashed.
But to be fair, there were people that did not get on the ranch because they weren't healthy enough. Bam Margera from his father, who they wanted to have on the show so badly, he did not pass. There was a rigorous physical that we had to go through. Jay had to wear a heart monitor for the first 3 weeks.
Month.
And also when we went to New Zealand, there were certain people they didn't let do certain heart raising
Ken
coming off the building. No, Ken did, but it was Rulon, Moses, and Jay didn't get to do this kind of thing.
That's right.
Right.
Because they're heart conditioned.
Right. So, and when we left the show, and I have all of this, my resting metabolic rate was better. Okay. We, which your RMR is how many calories you burn per minute. It's a huge part of it's your resting metabolic rate. So at rest,
fully at rest,
you are burning. And I remember in my outtake, Dr. Huizenga said to Olivia and I both, you have increased, your resting metabolic rate is at a healthy place, which is incredible. It was at such a non-healthy place before. Your resting heart rate is at an incredible place. So when we left the show, now, did they follow us after we left? No. So, like what happens after, what you're eating, how you're moving, the way you're living your life, but I can honestly, and Olivia will tell you, I do weigh myself, but I'm more interested in my body fat percentage. I get it tested twice a year. I get 2 scans a year that I pay for out of pocket from a place here in Nashville. That's incredible. And I did that for years, and I actually just did it about a month ago because I promised my CounterBalance group that I was going to do it again, and I again had reached a healthy body fat percentage, which was my biggest goal. So now my metabolism was already. I have PCOS. I have insulin resistance. That will never go away. So is my metabolism as good as like an athlete's? No, absolutely not. I've had 5 pregnancies in 7 years. I'm in perimenopause. No. However, to be able to get back to, after losing 120 pounds on the ranch, and Olivia and I both have been totally honest, the only weight we have gained is during our pregnancy times, right? During our fertility years, which I think is completely understandable. Not that we're making an excuse, but where we are today, not having any more children, not having any more miscarriages, thank you, Jesus, we are both at healthy weights. And to be able to say that 14 years later is something we're very proud of. I understand what she is saying. And the thing about the low calorie also, and we did this after the show, which no one else is talking about. Jillian said to us, your diet after the show will change. Your calories will be stair-stepped up to help you not have a huge swing. She said to us.
That's right.
I think it was it at the finale that her and Bob talked to us about this? Do not go and start binging. After the finale, all these people, and I get it. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, and some people choose to do different things before the finale, saunas and all, which is fine. Those are after when you're at home, like what you do is on you, right?
Wait, Hannah, you got to tell, this is big T about the finales, about everybody weighs in, because you weigh in. Okay, so the finale was on a Tuesday, right? A Tuesday night.
On a Saturday.
You weigh in on a Saturday. So everybody weighs in on Saturday, okay? As soon as you weigh in, most everybody, and Bob and Jillian told us, they were like, do not do it. Do not do it. Dr. Huizenga said it. That was the one time they were all on the same page. They were like, do not go in. You have been eating perfectly clean for months and months and months and months. You have to go into refeeding and all of that kind of, you have to as far as upping your calories by stair stepping and all the things. And most people literally weigh in and then they just go off the deep end and they celebrate and they're eating all the things. No judgment.
Of course.
But the tea is so many people brought certain clothes to wear for the finale.
Their finale dress and their finale suits.
And then ended up having to be sewn into their dresses.
Because they couldn't fit.
Or add panels, the poor costuming department was having to, or they would have to buy all new clothes from Saturday to Tuesday because of water retention, salt, just overeating, people that was a big deal. And I know Hannah and I had spent such a long time trying to find our finale dresses. We were both like, I'm wearing my finale dress. I'm not gonna.
We brought Ezekiel toast, and I brought a little thing of peanut butter because I hadn't had any peanut butter the whole time. There was almond butter on the ranch, but it's not the same. And then I remember we brought those figs. We brought those figs and we put them on top of the Ezekiel. That's what amateurs, but still, because I also, and I'm not saying that after the finale, I went to Las Vegas. I had all kind of stuff, but sure. I also didn't want to get sick. I was concerned about getting sick because, when you've been eating clean and then all of a sudden I was like, I don't want to, I want to feel good on my finale day. I don't want to feel, and
it wasn't about eating bad. It was that we had been eating fish, chicken, vegetables, sweet potatoes. We had been eating all whole foods pretty much. We weren't eating processed foods. We were eating so clean, which we prepared the foods for ourselves. That's another question we get all the time. We also made the grocery list.
Yes, we did.
Every week, made the grocery list. I sat down. Jen Jacobs did it with me until she left. And then I continued doing it after stuff.
Right.
We made the grocery list every week. If we didn't make a grocery list, no food came in that house. So people are all the time like, oh, they were forcing them to eat that. And then, no. I went around and asked everybody what they wanted every week. And then they went to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. All of our foods came from Whole Foods and Trader. It was all organic. It was like the best. I ate better at Biggest Loser than I ever have in my whole life as far as quality.
100% clean. Period.
100%. It was amazing. It was amazing.
It was incredible. Okay, so I just want to read a couple of quick comments. Because this comment was made hundreds of times. Sherry Fedorko, I kind of hate what they did with this documentary. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Everyone has their own experience and viewpoint, and I respect that. But this show was so inspiring to so many, and I hate that it is being so vilified. We have gotten this comment hundreds of times from all of you guys. I want you to know we see this. Biggest Loser had its problems, which we are totally understanding.
Yes,
but it wasn't all bad, and it did inspire millions of people. And we have met tons of you. I have met this person, Sherry. She's a fan of the show, and she has lost, I believe, 100 pounds as well, and is very healthy, and even went vegetarian. I mean, all these things. I just recognized her from our comments. Jane, yes, the camera's angles. I totally noticed that. Tons of things. The documentary was very one-sided, and I did rewatch Joelle's season. It was 100% her attitude, not Bob's. There is a lot of that, and there's a lot of people on Joelle's side too. So you pick your whatever you think. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion on that. She did not and still does not take any personal responsibility, and that's my problem. This doc had one agenda, that was to make and sensationalize the series that was filled with inaccuracies. I wish they would have shown more sides. So, but here's the thing. It's a television show and it's a documentary. So they're going to show what they want to show, right? Which is really kind of part of all of this. And that was the risk that we took going into it. Even though we were told they were going to show the positives and the good things and all of that, which is, yeah. So, and a lot of people asked, I'd like to know if all the contestants were asked. We went through that. A lot of people said no. Not everyone was asked. There's a lot of people that are saying they were asked and maybe they weren't. There's a lot of things. But every contestant has the right to post their story to their social media, and we're so glad that people are doing that. And someone else said about the documentary being one-sided. I totally agree. I watched every single episode of every single season, and I remember Joelle being difficult and having an attitude from the onset, but I do hope she's doing well, as do we. I also got several comments about, I made a comment on our last podcast about, it was the first time I was exposed to therapy with Dr. Hogan, and we were allowed to see him or request him at any time. He was always kind of around, and it was wonderful. And Jillian encouraged me. Like, she was like, if you've never been to therapy before, and of course none of this makes air, you need to make an appointment with a Dr. Hogan, and you need to talk to someone that's unbiased. You need to sit down and have a conversation. And she said, and that's on you to make that appointment. So if you want to make yourself stronger mentally, you need to take advantage of every resource that we are offering. And she said to me.
And that was available to everyone. Dr. Hogan was available to everyone.
He also did our psychological eval intake before we got on the ranch. And he had worked with many reality TV shows, including Bad Girls Club, which is kind of a funny little thing.
It is.
But he was so kind. I remember I was very nervous about meeting him, and he knew that because I had never been to therapy before, even though I desperately needed it. And he knew I was a volleyball player, and he brought a volleyball to our session. I'm going to cry.
I mean, this is the stuff that people...
nervous about talking to a stranger, and I felt like I always was told that therapy was for depressed and crazy people, and that's just not the truth. And so I'm emotional about it because Jillian knew that I needed it. And she said, I will go to the ends of the earth to help you, but this will be great for you to do this. And the thing is, I had to take away from workout time to meet with him. And so, and she said, it doesn't matter. She said, you deserve to have this time. And she pushed me to do that. And my time with him was so important. I was on the defense at first, but we started peppering, which is like a volleyball thing. And it made me feel so comfortable. And the fact that he took his time, he brought his volleyball, we went far away from the cameras. I was allowed to de-mic. And we had that time, and we did that several times throughout the season. And it helped me so much. And honestly, if Jillian wouldn't have pushed me to do it, I wouldn't have done it. And so I just want to, I don't know if I've ever shared that with her. It really made a huge difference in my life, and it helped me turn many corners on that show. And so a lot of people are saying they did nothing for them. If Jillian didn't care about me, would she have pushed me to miss time in everything else to actually do that? No. And so that was a very important and special thing. So thank you, Dr. Hogan. But also, it opened up a whole new world of therapy for me. And she also encouraged me to continue in my maintenance journey after the show, and I did. And so that was something people asked about that all the time. Were there therapists? There was a dietitian, there were therapists, there were trainers, there was a medical doctor, there was a medical assistant.
Off-camera trainers.
Off-camera trainers.
Like we had amazing
off-camera trainers that were incredible. We had Cardio Chris, we had Andrew, we had Chad, the boxer. Mm-hmm. We were kind of flirting with each other, which was super. So, there was all of this. Also, we got a question: are you still friends with Courtney and Irene? Yes. Are you kidding?
Of course, there are boo-boos.
That group chat. Woo. They are just the kindest and most amazing human beings.
And Mama Marcy.
And Mama Marcy.
And,
of course,
Jen and Jay.
Denny. So many people on our season. Arthur, who adore. And Jesse, who I also adore. P.S. Arthur and Jesse are Milo's favorite team, by the way.
Of course they are, because they're the best.
He said Arthur is so smooth and he knows how to dance. Ken and Austin, Austin has met his wife and is married, and so there are Justin Pope, who we absolutely who had an incredible mental and physical, but his mental transformation. He was the big bad.
Dan and Dawn,
who we absolutely love so much. Everyone on our season. Moses and Kaylee were there. We had, and there were issues, of course, just like every family and every season, but we never had huge drama. Right. So anyway, also somebody.
But I just want to say, I think just watching Hannah get emotional right now is, I think, that's real. That is who we are. That's who we've always been. I think that's what's been so hard for us, because in all of this, to watch people shit on something that is so much bigger than anything y'all saw. And I'm not saying that the narrative that was y'all tuned in for every week was not incredibly problematic and could not stand on its own 2 feet in today's, because it was 20 years ago. We know better now. We do better. Obesity medicine has come so far, and we know so many things, but to say that these people were trying to hurt us on purpose is just simply a lie. It is a lie. To say that they were, forcing us to do things and abusing us is simply a lie. To say that they were not trying to give us what we needed while we were there is just simply not true. And that part is so, now, whether you had a good experience with those things or not, that's a different story. But that's the part that has been so hard, is then to watch people watch this one viewpoint of The Biggest Loser and take it as Bible truth that's just what happened with everybody.
That's my thing. I'm like, you're just believing everything on this documentary and not what?
The crew. We could go on and on. The crew, the PAs, the producers, Todd Lubin, all those people were just a Kristen, A-Row. We could go on and on and on.
Lamb
Abby, Sergeant Sexy, Lamb Cakes. We could go on and on about all these. Pocket Patty.
Holly, who was there. He was a
happy birthday, Benny.
Yes. Oh my gosh, happy birthday, Benny.
We could go on.
What about hot art guy? Hag.
Yes. The hot art guy. We could go.
I had a crush on everyone, basically.
And we feel so protective over it because it was such a loving environment. It really was. And whether or not it's culturally accepted, what the final product that went on NBC or not, I will defend it
to the hill,
to the nth degree.
That's right.
I just will. Again, were all the decisions along the way, how much we were eating? Oh, one more thing before, because I know we've gone over a little bit, but I don't think anybody will. Welcome to Hannah and I. One more thing. Quickly, there have been so many people that there's been a lot of backlash against the exercise. Let's just talk about this really quick. I know this isn't this. This is, exactly. So what you saw on the TV, the Biggest Loser, the Last Chance workout and the workouts with Bob and Jill, where there was all the intense working out. That happened 2 times a week. We would film those segments for 2 hours. You were walking on a treadmill at like 3.5, 4.0 until it was your turn to go work out with Bob and Jillian, which was all of 5 or 10 minutes. So you were doing really high intensity, crazy stuff, throwing the medicine ball, ground and pound, doing some kind of weights, whatever they were having you, tug of war, whatever they were making, wall sits. That was like a total of 10 minutes.
During the last
The rest of the time, you were walking on a treadmill or walking slowly on a Stairmaster. And then that was only 2 days a week. Okay.
Now the other workouts, we were doing more intense stuff, but only during that workout. Only during that.
That's what I'm saying.
Workout, yeah.
But just short little spurts. Like we weren't working out at that intensity level for 2 hours a day. The rest of the days, we walked and we hiked.
Right.
We hiked Inspiration Point and we walked. And we would get our spin bikes and face them towards each other and just sit on the spin bike and just spin. Like
low intensity, steady state cardio for the majority of the time. That's
how we lost our weight.
Steps, right.
Getting your steps in.
Right.
Walking.
So we only saw Bob and Jillian 2 times, if we were lucky, 3 times a week. And we saw them.
And then
they weren't at the challenges. They weren't there. So we had 2 workouts a week. Really 1.5, because Last Chance workout wasn't as long or as intense as the one workout.
And then we saw them one other time a week when it was our day off, because they would take us to Barry's boot camp and Bob's spin class at Crunch. And then they would always take us Jillian took us to her beach house in Malibu. Do you not remember that? Bob took us to his house and we walked up and down the streets by Tyler Perry's house and Jennifer Aniston's house back, he'd walk.
We followed Jillian's horse up a mountain one time and walked all of her dogs. Mouse, which was her fiance at the time, girlfriend, come and teach yoga with us. And all for free.
We did yoga. Yes.
We did stretching, all of that.
We primarily did very low intensity,
steady state
working out. I mean, as we got more and more fit on our own, I would run like a 5K period, like once a day, maybe on a treadmill. But I'm talking like
that you should work out this much in a week. Nobody is saying that in a regular, like we don't do that now. Olivia and I are basically we're walkers. That's what that's our predominant form of exercise. Also,
somebody asked me a question in the comments about why I don't work at SoulCycle anymore. And I mean, that is a whole nother, I'd love to do a whole nother episode on SoulCycle and all that, because Hannah was so involved in all that, but there's no real drama there at all. I was ready for that chat. I worked there for over a decade. It was COVID. It was a lot. I had a baby. I had an opportunity to move closer to my parents, to help take care of my parents. And I had an opportunity to start CounterBalance with Hannah. Right. Always the dream is that to start our own business. And so there's no drama there whatsoever, but I love SoulCycle still to this day. I mean, I don't do it anymore. I walk now. I'm a walker and I do Pilates. I'm a Pilates girl. And that's what I do.
Yes. Another thing that I do want to say is, and I actually sent this text to Jillian because I've been watching all of her stuff, which has been so hard to watch. And I know she's just feeling all the things because she did put in her whole life into the show. The seeds that Jillian, and if Jillian and Bob ever see this, the seeds that the two of you sowed into us on the show, the seeds that the producer sowed into us, the seeds that the contestants that we were with, those seeds have turned into trees that are bearing fruit to this day and that have bared fruit for us for 14 years. So no matter what anyone says about you or I or about the show, no one can take away our trees, our children, our marriages, our businesses, the thousands of pounds that other people have lost, the pounds that we have lost, no one can ever take away. And I will be damned if someone puts me back in that victim seat where I was sitting on day one of the show. And this documentary, not saying that's what Netflix wanted to do at all, or Mike or anyone else, but no comment, no TikTok, nothing is going to put me back in that place. Because I went to the show to get out of that. And Jillian was the one that put that mirror in front of me, and Bob too. You have to get out of this victim mentality. So no one abused me. No one made me a victim of any sort of abuse or anything like that. And I'm a better human being because of this experience. It completely changed my life. We showed up to the show completely infertile. I found out I was completely clinically depressed. Learned about depression. I learned about so many things. I never even knew what a pasture-raised egg was until I got to Biggest Loser, for God's sake. And I was very cared for, and I'm extremely grateful. And I know that sounds like a brown nose, but it's true. The seeds that we sowed into ourselves, because we did the work, as Jillian would always say, she will never take credit and will never even let you say thank you to her. But the seeds they sowed into us as human beings and people have made these beautiful trees and have bared fruit. And that's what I'm the most proud of.
To add to that, just like, from my perspective, and I know Hannah, and I echo everything Hannah just said 100%. And to add one more thing to that is, at the end of the day, Hannah and I chose the day when the confetti fell, that was not the end, but that was just the beginning. And we have spent the last 15 years tending to those trees. We were told, take what you've learned and go build the life you want. That we were told forever we weren't worthy of, we weren't good enough for, we were too fat, too big, too sick, too unhealthy, too ugly, too all the things to have. And we have spent the last 15 years getting out of that victim seat, building the life that we deserve and we are worthy of. And all of that started at Biggest Loser. So people can say what they want. They can poo-poo on this. They can say it was damaging. They can say whatever.
They weren't there, though.
Our testimony is our lives, and our truth is the fruit. And that, at the end of the day, nobody can argue with.
And I also want to say, just because someone gains weight after the show doesn't make them a bad person, or doesn't make them
a failure
or
insanity.
Everyone that loses a large amount of weight has some period of time where their weight goes up and down. This happens on social media all the time. And so, saying that we were fat shamed and all of those are other people's opinions, and they're allowed to have that. We do not feel that way. It was the first time outside of my family I actually felt seen in life.
Yeah.
And I remember Jillian saying, the lie that you have to stop telling yourself is just because you're overweight doesn't mean that you are nothing. Just because you are an overweight individual, it doesn't mean that is who you are as a person. And it doesn't mean that you cannot live a healthy life. And you have told yourself that for years and years and years. And I get it. They were yelling, they showed but there was so much more non-yelling. There was just...
And the thing is, the beautiful thing about all of this is also, if you are somebody who's overweight that's watching, one of the things I did learn there is that I don't have to lose weight to have value.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
If you don't want to lose weight, you don't have to.
Exactly.
And your doctor is like, you're good. You don't have to.
Right.
And that is the thing, I think, that what we have been working on, Hannah and I, moving forward, have also been working on changing that narrative that you don't have to lose weight and you can show up as you are, and it is good enough, and you can take up all the space you need and want. Yeah. That's right. It was
also the first time that I felt welcome in a gym. It was the first time that Jillian said, you belong in a gym no matter what size you are. If that's what you want to do and you want to step foot, that was such a huge part of them putting into us that just because you are overweight doesn't mean you don't have a place in this world. But that, of course, doesn't make the best TV. So a lot of those conversations, they couldn't show every conversation we had about this.
Right.
Also, I also want to say, everyone talk about the yelling and stuff, which is such a small part. I get it. It was shown on TV. I was an athlete my whole life. Even in college. Do you know how many times I have been...
screamed at by a coach?
Are you kidding?
Oh my gosh.
I'm like...
And that to me is the double standard.
But
because you're fat, you're not allowed to be like, you're not allowed for someone to push you and whatever. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Every time anyone yelled, it was because we weren't doing what we were supposed to be doing, just like a child. It was because we were being defined. I remember one time I did not want to run at a 6.0 on the treadmill. Like, looking back, I'm like, Hannah, come on. I was exhausted, and she kept trying to get me to do it for a certain amount of time, and I would not do it. And she perched at, Jillian liked to perch on a treadmill, remember? When she got on the treadmill, you were like, oh, Lord. And she didn't yell, but she was just like, I'm not yelling. She would always say that because she didn't want to. She never really wanted to, but I was being so defiant in that moment. And not defiant, it was just out of, for whatever reason, I was having one of those days. I mean, it was very different than the Joelle situation because she felt that way most of the time. And so I could understand now as a coach, looking back, I would have been like, I would have been yelling at us at every turn. I think I don't do that now, obviously, with my clients. I would never. But like in that situation, it's, and you know what? You never know what you would do in that situation until you're in it. And I just want to do that,
Yeah.
So
Well, this has been so good. We've definitely gone over this.
So many questions.
We're going to try to stick our podcast to an hour, the episodes to an hour. This one, it was like we did, let's see, an hour and 23. So we're a little bit over, but that's all right. That's all right. We felt like these things were important. These questions needed to be answered. And we're so excited. Thank y'all again for the most amazing welcome to this podcast world. Like it has been, we're so excited about all the things we're going to talk about, all of the episodes we have in front of us. And if we could ask you one thing, if you like what you've seen, if it's something you want to see more of, leave us a comment, give us a like, give us a 5-star review, share it with people. If there's anybody that watched the documentary that you've talked with, and would like for them to hear about the things we've talked about today, we would love that. And so
Spotify, we would love for you to give us a 5-star review there.
Yeah, like give us a review.
Or if
and
you don't
thank y'all.
You can give us a review. That's okay too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, but thank y'all so much for watching. And My CounterBalance, we got a lot coming up. And
Exciting.
Always feel free to tell us what you want to hear us chat and gab about, because I mean, clearly Hannah and I, we don't have any lack for words.
All the Biggest Losers you can purchase, because this was another question, you can purchase on Amazon Prime. I wish they were free. So I'll continue to let you guys know. I just started season 8 because I had never seen Danny and Tracy on season,
Also Apple TV, you can buy them on Apple TV. Yes. Also, you can buy them. I bought.
Right. We were against season 11. I wish that you could buy all of them and then you could just watch them all. But I did want to say one more thing. Jim Batista, who was on season 1, season 18, he was like, y'all remember there was a season 18, right? But because it was on a different network, it's not considered the same Biggest Loser. Right. Shout out to Jim Batista in season 18. You are still part of.
That's right.
Also, someone asked this last question, do we still talk to the alumni? And the answer is we talk to a lot of alumni. Is there an alumni group? There's an alumni Facebook page. There's hundreds of people in it. So we do talk to, and we've talked to a lot recently.
Just FYI, because I got kicked out many years ago, but that's okay.
I still think you could be added, because the person that's the admin actually loves you. So I don't think that's known. I'm gonna check on that.
It's totally fine, and I don't need to be a part of it. Hannah gives me everything I need to know, and it's totally fine. But that's tea for another day.
That's right.
That's tea for another podcast. So thank y'all again for watching, and
see you next
time. Bye.